Cheers, and welcome to the NooK on the Voluntary Virtues Network. I'm Steve. I'm here today with Matt.
Cheers.
Riley.
Cheers.
Christy. Brian. And Mike. Oh, and I forgot Professor Odin.
Professor Odin. His illustrious Professor Odin.
Today I'm drinking Calico by Ballast Point Brewing. I don't think they make anything that doesn't taste good.
Agreed.
Not my favorite Ballast Point beer.
It's just a pale ale. So it's like...
It's an amber ale.
It's an amber ale?
Yeah.
Ah. So it's a little bit better than a pale ale.
It's just slightly though.
No, it's not bad for a pale or a amber ale though.
Yeah, I think you said it right. They really don't make anything bad.
I,
At least that I've had so far. I mean, fair enough, pale ale maybe not as good as like one of the porters or something like that. But,
Victory at Sea.
Agree to you.
Oh. Don't get me started.
No, Ballast, they make good beer and they make good liquor.
Ah, yes. Some vodka.
I did have. Was it Ballast Point that they make a rum?
They make a rum, they make a
Okay.
vodka, they
I haven't
make
had the
a
vodka. I had the rum
whiskey.
unaware.
because Michael likes rum.
I don't think I've had any of that liquor.
It's really
It's
good.
good. At their,
Really smooth.
15 times,
I
or
like
15 time filter
Oh, wow.
vodka. It's,
What?
right? It's pretty good.
I'll try it.
So what are you drinking?
I'm drinking wine. Some cupcake red wine.
Oh, that is
Oh,
good.
nice.
Yeah,
the
it's a little
cupcake's
sweet
really
for
good.
my taste. It's the first time I've had the red wine of the cupcake, whatever.
Called red wine, red.
Red wine,
Right,
or
yeah.
red
The-
something.
right, sweet,
Red-
like it's like a sweet,
red.
yeah,
I don't,
yeah, I
I'm not
don't
very
either.
savvy when it comes to wine, but
Yeah.
it sure does taste pretty good. It's not my favorite, but I dig it.
Pretty
Nice.
sure there's some grapes in there.
I think there's grapes and some kind of fermentation process. I'm unaware of
One of
exactly the
those.
details, but I like it.
Tea,
Christy?
tea, apple cider, apple. Yeah, it is. Apple spice.
That sounds
It's really good. Yummy.
Actually,
Shipyard Bluefin Stout. A little simple, but otherwise good.
I am drinking the same, and yeah, I mean maybe I'm on like a negative pitch here, but second week in a row I picked a bad beer. Yeah,
Boy.
not really digging it. I mean it's not bad, but
Bum bum bum.
for a stout it's
Dude.
just kind
Flat.
of almost like watered down for stout. Do you see what I'm saying about that?
I'd say it lacks complexity, but it's probably the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
It's still tasty, but
who's it by? I missed that.
Shipyard.
Shipyard.
So you chose that beer
Second.
inappropriately, huh?
Yep. Second week in a row.
Was that the only choice you had, Mike?
No, there were others.
But were you limited by the choices in the store?
Did you have free will?
I have a feeling we're going to be talking about free will in this podcast.
Yeah.
You are correct, sir.
You are correct, sir. Yes.
Part 2 of our free will debate.
Yes.
I think again we'll start with Matt explaining his position since he's kind of the...
Oh, man. All right, I'll start it off. I'll do that. So I'd like to start it off by saying I believe free will is an illusion. It's an illusion that humans have created to describe the experience they have, which is the experience of weighing options when it comes to making a decision and being fully conscious of those options. Now, humans are limited by the forces of the universe, gravity, magnetism, and forces we don't understand. And we cannot change those. So the way that it all worked out had to be the way that it had to be the only way it could have worked out because of physics. Now, if physics is not random, then there could be room for free will. But if physics is something that is concrete, knowable, and could only have happened one way, humans are subject to those laws, so we really have no way to have complete freedom. So it's an illusion that humans use because they get defensive when they feel like they don't have a choice, like death. They came up with religion because You no longer have a choice when it comes to death or a lot of matters. You don't have a choice. You are limited by something. So we come up with concepts to cope with it. And I think free will is our way of coping with the fact that we are subject to restrictions of the universe. I don't believe in an intelligent creator or anything like that. That's why I don't think it's all orchestrated by anything. And I think to a lot of people, that is a thought that disturbs them, because not knowing something is hard for humans. They like to have, they feel comfort in knowing the true nature of reality. And when
Even if that's a false
yeah, like
idea.
like religion, God, the God of the gaps is an idea I know we've discussed before. Every time science doesn't understand something, even Newton, a ton of scientists would always invoke God as what was doing it. And then later on, it would be discovered, no, it's not God, it's this process that's happening around us that we now understand. So I think just because we can't actually see every process that's going on in our head, I couldn't tell you exactly why it goes that way, because you can't see it on a level that is possible to, and we might never even have that capability. It may be above us to understand ourselves on such a level. It might be too much for just the capabilities of the human mind.
So, I guess to touch on a point that you first mentioned, are you saying that the fear of death and the fear of not being able to make a choice are on the same basic level? Is it you have your brain for some reason comes up with the equal amount of fear?
It's a coping mechanism. It's defense. Ideas that really ideas that put you in an aspect of fear, and make you think it's something unknown. It really disturbs the human mind. It makes it want to seek an answer that makes it feel comfort.
So how do you think the origin of the idea of free will came to be about?
Well, I think it's number one. Like I said, it's an illusion.
Okay.
You sit in your mind, and you hear all this stuff. You hear all these, the weighing of the options of your subconscious, weighing, should I do this, should I not do this? But all the factors it's weighing are all things that you have learned from your life, inputs you've got, things people have said to you. So all this stuff you're taking into account, and you're hearing this process go on in your head. So you as the observer, really get the feeling, look, I am deciding this. This is perfectly my decision. But what you're really doing is experiencing your mind working all this out. And you hear that chatter in your head, and you describe it as free will because you experience the decision-making process. But those decisions are all based on what has happened to you, and you are analyzing all that and taking into account all the factors that you believe matter. And your mind is basically processing all that, and you experience that whole thing as consciousness. And that consciousness, it seems almost as though, yeah, you are making you still are making a decision, but it seems as though you're the author, but you're the one who's just really experiencing it.
I think it's both. I think you are the author and you are experiencing it from past things. And there are points in which you choose. And then there are points in which you look in the back, you just do because you've done. But then at some point you have to choose to do something. I don't know. I think it's a dance between the both of them. But that leaves me with free will. So I'm a free willer.
But if is that choice something that you have some kind of an option with, or based on everything that's the entire history of the universe, you're going to make a certain choice regardless?
But there are so many things that I could choose at any one moment that the universe is not conspiring for me to make one of those choices or the other. I mean,
But
it's
aren't you
just-
part of the universe, though?
Yeah, I am.
Well, no,
Yes,
that's
I
a
am.
very interesting question. And if that question is answered in the affirmative, then to say that our behavior is governed by the universe and its laws, then I think completely confounds the argument of that we have no free will, because if we are the universe and the universe is in charge of what we do, and henceforth we are in charge of what we do, then there's really no argument against free will. But I think it's a very fascinating, issue and topic, and I mean, there's been a lot said already in the short amount of time that could be, answered to or
A
discourse.
topic in itself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, touching on God and the fear of not knowing, and that perpetuating this illusionary drive to have a sense of control of the issue when really there's none. All these things are very interesting. But I like the question you posed. Are we not a part of the universe? And I think we are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're born into this universe or into this world. I think we're born of this universe and of this world, in this world, and of this world, out of this world, really, and out of this universe. And we're a microcosm of it, and we're governed by the same laws that govern it. And so our actions are in congruence with the laws of the universe and the universe itself, because they're one and the same. I think, from my position, a whole lot of the issue of whether or not this whole debate of free will can be dropped and understood more clearly if we simply use a different terminology, because I think it's been fairly, if you really look at it logically and rationally, there is no reason to assume why we would have free will per se in terms of the capacity to direct our volition of will free and irrespective of things that it's dependent upon, so such as like you were saying, like the whole history of the cosmos, or just the laws of physics. Like, I can't will to jump to the moon or to visit Mars right now at this moment. I can choose to use the restroom if I was so inclined, or if I felt like it was needed. So within the realm of possibility, I have the capacity to will certain things, but I don't have free will in terms of being able to break certain laws or circumstantial mandates as to where I am and the position I am and the laws of physics and what have you. So I don't have free will, but I do have the ability to direct my will in ways that are beneficial to my understanding of reality and myself, and so I think it's just a re-understanding of will. It's not free will, it's just conditioned will, or limited will, but it's still very much real, and it still very much belongs to us. And I think to assume that, or to imagine that it's not, can be very damaging, and just not productive to the human endeavor that we aspire to be voluntarists. And another issue is if we were to imagine ourselves as not being capable of directing our will to our wants and desires, then we really have no point in
Why?
proclaiming libertarianism
Right.
when liberty itself is an illusion, because that's what liberty is. It's the ability to choose. And if that isn't in our capacity,
Yep.
then what are we doing spinning our wheels
Right.
talking about an illusion? So I think it's just a matter of terminology and recognizing, no, okay, maybe we don't have free will in the sense that we are limited, but that
Well,
doesn't...
unlimited free will. I mean,
We are
Limited.
we have
limited free will.
limited free will.
We,
So to
have, we
speak.
have will, but it is not necessarily free.
No, of course not.
Not
you-
unlimited
conditioned.
possibilities. I mean, we have
Limited
free will,
possibilities.
limited within the realm of what we're
It's
But
possible.
Right.
it's
What's
important.
realm of
It's
what's
important
what
to
we
know,
know
though,
to be
that,
possible.
that everybody's going to process things differently too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have to look at, it's not as though we're all machines that are programmed the same to do the same thing. It's everybody's unique, has a unique experience, and they all are trying something in the way that fits their life, or hopefully they're doing it, whatever they believe is best. Sometimes people are taking orders and all that. That's where the issues come.
Well, and they think that's best, though.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that while you may not have completely free will, you are still making decisions. you are still weighing your options, and
Well, that was free will to me. That's free will.
Well, it's
No?
well, but see, I
It's
mean, do
definitely
you
will.
understand the distinction between like the notion of free will, where your will is unlimitedly capable of choosing any choice it so desires, given the
See, but to
circumstances
me,
of where and
it's you.
what it is.
At any moment, you have the opportunity to choose a possibility within the realm of what that moment is.
Right.
So,
but
but
it's
if there's,
subject,
if
like
it's
he was
not
saying.
unlimited at the moment, then you can't choose unlimited because it's not even possible at the moment.
Right.
So in the
exactly.
moment, you can choose whatever's possible.
Within the realm of possibility,
Right.
you are free to choose
Exactly.
your possible
Right,
choices.
and that's free will to me.
right.
Right.
I mean,
well,
that's
it's
understandable.
as free will as you're going to get in
Right,
this lifetime.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
which I still appreciate that whole experience. I'm not like trying to degrade that experience at all, because I think it's still very important to be present at the moment of all that and actually be experiencing the whole thing, taking it all in, and
So
actually being there, thinking about it. I think it's going to happen regardless, but spreading these ideas are going to then spread them to other people, and by exchanging ideas, we get new ideas, new goods, services, all sorts
well,
of things.
that's really the idea behind evolution, is creating better and better ways of transferring information over
So-
time.
So is it just the belief that we have free will that has us?
Debating this.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know, like just the thought
It's
of.
pretty wild when you think about it. That just we're talking about the very nature of how we exist, not whether or not that we do, but how is it that we exist. You know?
Well, but that's another thing about this whole topic
Uh-huh.
of free will, or the capacity of the individual's will.
Because to me, like, it seems like it starts like at one point, like there's a starting decision for something, like almost kind of maybe think about it as like evolution.
So
That there's like, okay, so dinosaur needs a longer tail to have better balance, so it can get like something higher up on a tree, be it an animal or a fruit, whatever, And at one point or another, doesn't it, like, based on the experiences that animal takes in its life over generations, other ones doing the same, it kind of imprints on there?
yeah,
At one point or another, like, something of the nature of that being is saying, this needs to happen. So
it's based on the input it got.
yeah,
though,
well,
though.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like the only thing I can really disagree with about what you said so far is, you're saying that soul is the same as saying God is in the gaps, and I understand where you're coming from saying that. That makes a lot of sense, but also, we're saying, like, I guess I think of free will. I think of I couple the concept of soul together as one. That it's the same thing. That there's something of your very nature that is not really definable, But the reason why I'm saying it's different than God is because
Ineffable.
Yes.
God is something saying like, oh, this thing, whether or not it has control of it or not, it is kind of what God is. There's something else that controls the universe. Whereas soul is
It's-
the very
it's
nature of
trying
what
to
is controlling
define-
you.
Yeah, it's trying to define you.
Yeah.
And this is a great point on this discussion. When you're trying to define you, do you really define your physical body as you, or can you really say that? Because can you define the cells that are made up of your body you?
Mm-hmm.
Because while it is a lower mass, there is a larger number of bacterial cells in you than human cells,
Mm-hmm.
by like an order of I don't know exactly what it is, but it's quite a bit.
It's like 99% of the functions of your body's information is bacterial and has nothing to do with your individual cells, so to speak. But that can be divisive and babbleism of its own, because the human individual cells are dependent upon the bacteria to exist at all.
Exactly.
So
I
it's
think they're
it's
part of
a
it.
it's
So
a
it's
symbiotic
yeah.
relationship, really.
Mhm.
So I mean, it is a part of us.
It is.
It's an aspect of us, and I think the whole kind of what you guys have been touching on goes to the heart of an issue of this whole topic of free will to me, or the capacity or the ability of will, whether or not it's an illusion or it's a reality that's our own, so to speak. Is what is the human person if their will is illusionary or illusory or not real or a figment of imagination. What defines us most, like you guys are touching on, if it's not our will? Because as an existentialist, that's huge for me. Is what you choose pretty much best defines who you are, and if what we choose is an illusion, then we are an illusion. And this whole talk of what we believe about what this or that is pretty just.
I think what really shapes
What's the point?
what shapes a human is all of the things that have shaped our evolution. The environment we're in, all the
Right.
ideas that have been passed along, genetic code, really everything that has created humans to be what they are now. And that is unique for every individual, the environment they've spent, the genetic code, everything. It's all unique to everyone.
By and
So-
large, but there's also, at the same time, I mean, I hear what you're saying about that in terms of, like, what humanity is, but, like, when it comes to, like, who Matt is, like, that's a more specific individual,
Yeah.
pinpoint. And in terms of answering that more specific question, I think it's our actions or our deliberate intentions that best define who we are. And if that's illusionary, then I think ultimately who we individually are is largely illusionary as well. But I don't think it's illusionary. I think it's very real and it's very concrete, and it has very much a role to play in our own lives, of course. And that's another aspect of the whole free will debate, is the fact of the matter is that we all experience the capacity to will, and we all do it and plan on doing it every day of our lives. So to say it's anything other than real is, I think, just kind of, I mean, you can say it, but the reality of our experience is that it's very much a reality.
I almost wonder, do you guys think this almost kind of couples in with the, just like the whole notion of whether it's an objective universe or a subjective universe? You guys know what I'm
It's
saying?
both
Like
and.
that?
It's always both and.
You know,
Why should
so
people
like I
own
would
this
like
shit?
almost wonder if like free will kind of ties into that in a way. Like I mean, is that part of the same subject? I think so. Or
Yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
not.
I think
you know,
I hear what you're
maybe
saying.
that's completely separate
No, it
things.
is.
What's that Mexican proverb or that Spanish saying? What is it? Each mind is a universe of its own, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, think of it, it's kind of like I don't know if somebody had sent it out in this group or I just saw it somewhere else, but it was from CERN, the Large Hadron Collider and all that. They were talking about searching for other dimensions, and they were talking about like a tightrope. If a person was walking on a tightrope, to them, it would seem like a completely different dimension than an ant, say, walking on that tightrope. And just different scales, the very small to the very large, can act as almost like different entities. So depending on what scale you look at something, it can act completely different.
Yeah.
Than on a small scale.
I mean, tall
That's
people
a-
experience life different than short people. Believe me, I'm short, I know.
I mean,
It's a whole nother
Yeah,
world
it's a
up
whole
here.
nother world, yeah.
enzymes, proteins, all that, depending on the temperature, they fold different and fit in each other different. And
I like that too, because it's like that fractal universe. It's like no matter how far down or how far up you go, there's always like I don't know how you want to put it, but or how I want to put it, I should say.
I guess almost like
A reality at hand that has its own sort of understanding of things, and it's all like true within that system of understanding. But it's always,
I mean,
you can always enlarge it, or
you can look at a
Yeah,
human
but-
on that scale too, like the
Right.
atomic scale, how
Absolutely.
everything's working together on the atomic scale, the molecular scale, down to the scale of the organs, to the whole being,
Yeah.
and then how that being is working
Environment,
within a group
society.
of humans, how that group of humans is changing
Exactly.
the world, how that world is affecting everything else.
It's all scales. There's one thing else. Oh, in regards to the whole, we experience, the capacity to will on a daily basis. We also experience, I think, points that others bring up is the whole sense of, we don't create so much our thoughts, generally speaking, and feelings so much as we experience them, and we observe them as they arise. And I think there's like a lot of validity to that on a daily basis. We experience that, we don't necessarily, I want to think about this weird or random thought. It just pops up, and it's like, oh, where'd that come from? But we
Yeah.
can observe it's arising. You know, like you said, we're the observer, and
Track
it's
its origin.
amazing what can happen if you merely just really get into that mode of observing what arises and not like being attached and not
Yes.
wanting to hold on
Yes.
to and not wanting to like
Here's
not
a-
have to let go or what have you, but but the thing that's amazing about it to me is that how much you can affect change by just observing,
Yes.
because the awareness is what affects the change. It's not that, I mean, there is
You really
conscious
think
intent.
so? I think there's, you have to do
here's a-
something.
here's
I
an
think
No,
there's
no, but even
yeah.
just being aware of it is
Really?
something in and of
Okay.
itself.
Being able
Absolutely.
to track like the origin of a thought, why am I thinking this thought? It's interesting.
Metacognition.
Yeah, I think it was Tesla. I know it was Tesla. He would always try to source back why he was thinking about something. What was it? What input that made me think about this? And an interesting thing that this reminds me of is losing something or not forgetting something.
Not
That's
forgetting
Why does
or
it happen?
forgetting
What doesn't it?
forgetting something. Okay.
Well, if you have free will and you are the one creating your thoughts and your cognition, then why is it that even something that you should be you clearly have on the tip of your tongue, for instance?
Because I think it's a dance between
evolution. What it is
and our environment and
when you-
free will.
well, when you're trying to recall that information, basically you're trying to trigger neurons connected to that. That's how you remember things. You're triggering a neuron that's connected to that. So the more neurons connected to an event, the easier it is going to be recall. So I think if you had truly free will, then you should be able to call up your own thoughts when you want to, right?
Well,
They're in your.
See, that's what
There's-
I don't think that's what free will is. I
Well-
think free will is you're in an environment and you're working with your environment. So if your neurons are fucked up, then
But they're your
you
neurons.
can't.
You-
Yeah, but I
Yeah, you
can't.
can be fucked up.
You're
You're-
right.
you're
but,
so sub-
but I
you're-
haven't worked on getting those neurons.
Well,
enough.
the thing about that is that it was the thing with the thing next to the thing, mijo.
Yeah.
Bring me the thing. No,
That's
no,
just
I really
like
want to
their
touch on that.
opinion, man.
No, man. Hey, man.
Yeah.
You verify that in the court of
I
law.
think you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. I was gonna start on like how where the thread comes from, where the thread started, but then you started talking.
Oh,
about
right. Thank you for getting me back to that.
Okay, I do have something. I think we discussed within the last week. So on the transhumanism we discussed a few weeks ago, if you were to send your consciousness, upload it to a
Oh,
computer,
right.
Not doing
then
that.
and you were still alive. Let's say you basically use it as some sort of personal assistant or something. Then if that thing
I know you
at
going
that
with this.
point, I'm not sure where I'm going with this. To be honest.
Not quite sure what, but so you're saying that okay.
So if that at that point would that thing would basically have at the point of upload you'd have, if you could do it, the same neural layout.
Yeah.
You would then respond to information based if you could make it so they responded like you would. There's a problem with doing it that way because if you're using digital storage for after that point.
And ultimately, though, like, is it something that, like, could you have sex with it?
well, see. So on the subject, let's say you both got drunk, right?
Right, okay.
And that did happen. The human memory is very subject to forgetting things.
So
That
willing
robot
to forget things.
That's
the
yeah,
thing.
but a robot memory or a digital memory
Ah.
will not forget that, and they'll remind you of every detail of last night.
Okay, so real quick, just to intersperse, so like Jung, right? He understood this whole thing about the unconscious and the autonomy of archetypes, which people might be like, oh, like some like mystical BS or whatever, but I think it's very much has complete validity. I'm a big Jungian. But so, yeah, there can be autonomous factors that would prevent us from, as individuals, exercising our autonomy of will. But that isn't to say that the process of individuation, as he would call it, can take place by which we eliminate as much as we can. It's a continual process, those forces, and seek to, pursue our individual will regardless, or because you can take into the account the wisdom of
Riley,
the archetypes.
Just to give you a heads up, though, we are talking about robot sex next week, though.
You guys are always talking about this. It never happens, as far as I'm aware. I don't know.
Oh.
It will
I know there's a
happen,
great
Riley.
big thread of
We
text
have a
messages
will.
about it. We have a will.
have
When
a
there's a will,
will.
there's
There's
a
a
way, and
way.
that's what the
It's
universe
right.
is about, people.
Yes.
It's wills and ways. You choose, and you're chosen, or not. Figure it out.
Whatever.
Figure it out.